Okay, so let's talk about lethal white guinea pigs. What they are, what causes their issues, and perhaps most importantly, how to care for one. Lethal white guinea pigs are guinea pigs who are born with a very specific gene. The most obvious symptom at first glance is the fact that they're born without any pigment at all, meaning that they always have pure white fur and pink eyes. Not all pink-eyed white guinea pigs are lethals though. Pink-eyed white, often abbreviated to PEW, is a relatively common colour and has no connection at all to the lethal white gene. So how do you tell the difference between a normal pink-eyed white guinea pig and a lethal white guinea pig? Well, lethal whites have a lot more symptoms at closer glance, ones that massively affect and often shorten their lives. One of the most prominent symptoms is the fact that they have seriously underdeveloped eyes. In some cases, they'll be born missing one or both of their eyes, or if they are born with eyes, then their eyes will be tiny and shrunken, sometimes with a squinting appearance. All lethal whites are at least partially blind, usually completely so. In a similar vein, their middle ear is also often underdeveloped. This isn't visible from the outside like their eyes, but there are external symptoms of this, such as the fact that they are almost always deaf and are more prone to having head tilts too. Lethal white guinea pigs are also often much smaller than other guinea pigs, especially when compared to siblings from the same litter that don't have the mutation. They often display stunted growth as they age, and will also tend to appear thinner and generally in poorer condition than typical guinea pigs. They're also born with dental issues, and the deformed jaw can sometimes be seen from the outside too. They may be born with malformed teeth or be missing some altogether, as well as putting them at an increased risk for overgrown teeth and tooth infections. This can also make eating more difficult for them, which is one of the reasons that they can struggle to thrive. Other symptoms that aren't always as visible can include a poorly functioning immune system that puts them at an increased risk of illness and infection, neurological problems, and an increased risk of gastrointestinal issues like bloat. When you actually look at a lethal white guinea pig up close, it's clear to see that they are very, very different from a healthy pink-eyed white guinea pig. But if the lethal white gene isn't related to the standard pink-eyed white gene, then what is the cause? The gene that causes lethal white guinea pigs is carried by guinea pigs who have the roan or Dalmatian colouring. Roan guinea pigs have typical colouring on their head, but the fur on their bodies is intermingled with white, similarly to a roan horse, and Dalmatian guinea pigs have a black head and a white body with black spots. The gene is recessive, which means that if the guinea pig only has one copy of it, the gene will remain dormant, as is the case with roan and Dalmatian guinea pigs. But if a guinea pig has two copies of the gene, one from each parent, then the gene is much more likely to be expressed. Because lethal white guinea pigs need two copies of the gene, breeding them can easily be avoided by not pairing two roan or Dalmatian guinea pigs together. It might be tempting if you want to breed one of those colours specifically, but it's not worth the risk. There's a 1 in 4 chance that any baby born to one of these pairings will be a lethal white. You can still breed roan or Dalmatian guinea pigs by crossing a pig of that colour with a solid coloured pig, and that way you don't carry the risk of creating lethal whites. Obviously, a responsible breeder would never pair guinea pigs who have the chance of producing lethal whites. However, breeders who haven't done their research sometimes will, and of course there can also be accidental litters, the result of a young male being kept with his mothers and sisters for too long, a guinea pig escaping and having a secret liaison, a neutered male being put in with females too quickly, or a guinea pig being wrongly identified as male or female and thus being housed with one of the opposite sex. Regardless of the exact circumstances of a lethal white's conception though, once one is born, they need special care, and that's what the rest of this video is going to be about. It's particularly important to be equipped with the knowledge of how to identify and care for a lethal white if you're planning to rescue guinea pigs, as you'll be at an increased chance of encountering one. Sadly, many lethal whites are still born or die shortly after birth. Those that survive their first few days will have a drastically shortened life compared to other guinea pigs, typically living from between a few months to a couple of years old if they're lucky. And although they may not live as long as a healthy guinea pig, they are a much bigger commitment, in terms of the time and care they need, but also emotionally and financially. If you ever find yourself with a lethal white guinea pig and you don't feel equipped to take care of them, then there's no shame in reaching out to a specialist guinea pig rescue and asking if they'd be willing to take it on, or if they know someone who would. Which obviously isn't to say that you have to do that, not at all. Although lethal whites are commonly associated with sanctuaries and rescues, there's no reason they can't thrive in a typical companion home as long as you've done your research. So when it comes to care, let's start by talking about their housing. Generally, guinea pigs fare better in larger herds. The more company they have, the better. However, lethal whites are an exception to this. Because of their disabilities, they can often be bullied by cage mates. That doesn't mean they should be housed alone, though. Guinea pigs are highly social individuals, and that doesn't change just because they can't see or hear their companions. The ideal setup for a lethal white guinea pig would be for them to live with only 1 or 2 other pigs, ones that are quiet, gentle, and not too dominant. Although our sanctuary has never been home to a lethal white guinea pig, we have taken in several over the years who've had other severe birth defects, and we found that some guinea pigs just seem to know instinctively when their friend is more vulnerable than a typical pig and respond accordingly. It's beautiful to see. And when it comes to the cage that the lethal white piggy and their companion will be living in, obviously it will need to be a decent sized cage. The tiny pet store cages aren't suitable for any kind of permanent accommodation, even for a disabled piggy. One thing that's very important to remember though, is that because lethal whites are blind, they experience much more stress if things in their enclosure have been moved about. So keeping the same layout of things like houses, tunnels and bowls is important. Which isn't to say that they shouldn't be provided with toys or enrichment, just that the overall layout of the cage shouldn't be changed so that the lethal white can feel safe and get around easily. You're also going to want to avoid any kind of shelves, ramps or extra levels, as they'd be at more risk of falling off and injuring themselves. In terms of diet, the deformed teeth of a lethal white guinea pig can cause considerable problems. Some will need to be syringe fed for some or all of their life, as their teeth can prevent them from being easily able to feed themselves. Likewise, when they're given fresh foods, they should be cut into very small pieces, as larger pieces can be harder for them to chew. And they may also find it easier to eat pellets if they've been soaked in water. I'd also recommend making sure that you're always using a food bowl rather than scatter feeding or using puzzle feeders or feed balls to ensure that the lethal white guinea pig can always find their food easily. It might also be ideal to provide a bowl for each guinea pig, or even separating them while they eat, to ensure that the lethal white guinea pig is able to get enough food, as even a relatively mellow piggy can become a bit of a bully where food's involved. And obviously they should always have hay and fresh water, but that probably goes without saying. The tooth malformations caused by the lethal white gene also means that most affected guinea pigs will need to regularly have their teeth checked and potentially have them filed down or trimmed, which is a procedure that has to be done under anaesthetic. Of course, any time a guinea pig is put under for surgery, it carries an inherent risk, but unfortunately that risk is heightened for a lethal white piggy because of their health problems. But allowing the teeth to become overgrown would leave them completely unable to eat and guarantee them a slow and painful death. So it's a risk you kind of have to take. In general, if you're caring for a lethal white guinea pig, you're going to be going to the vets pretty often, and naturally those bills can rack up, which is another thing to consider if you find yourself with a lethal white guinea pig. And even outside of the vet's office, you should be performing regular health checks yourself and weighing them weekly so you can catch any potential illnesses as early as possible. Lethal white guinea pigs should absolutely be housed indoors. Their lack of pigment puts them at a massively increased risk of sun damage, and they're also at an increased risk of becoming unwell or worse from cold or damp conditions. Plus, having them in your home with you will make it easier to keep an eye on them throughout the day. Given everything I've outlined in this video, you might be wondering if it would be kinder for the affected guinea pig to just be put to sleep, and I can't say for sure that there aren't ever cases where that is indeed the kindest option. But with the right care, lethal white guinea pigs can still thrive. They can still live a life that's worth living, even if it takes a bit more work from their human companions. Like most disabilities and health problems, every individual with the lethal white gene is going to be affected differently. Some will be much worse off and require a lot more intervention, while others will be able to live an almost normal life. And while they take a bit more care than a typical guinea pig, I can say from first-hand experience that when you take in an animal with health issues and manage to get them to a point of thriving, it's so worth it. No matter how much time, energy, work, research, money and heartache it takes, when you see them being able to live their best lives, to experience happiness and peace and joy and know that you helped give them that, it's the most incredible feeling in the world. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you found it informative. If you enjoyed it, then I would love it if you could press the like button and leave a comment. Interacting with the video helps the algorithm push it out to more people, which not only helps to spread this kind of education, but it also helps our sanctuary, since all of the money we make from our YouTube channel goes directly into our rescue work. If you've ever known or cared for a lethal white guinea pig, then I would absolutely love to hear your experiences in the comments, especially if you have any kind of information or advice that I didn't mention here. Like I said, our sanctuary has never dealt with a lethal white piggy, although we've had guinea pigs and other species with various birth defects and disabilities over the years. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so that you never miss a new video. Not only do we have educational content about animal care and rescue like this, but we also do videos about the environment and biology, and we have plenty of videos about life here at the Little Rescue Zoo, including sharing the stories of some of the animals we've rescued over the years. Our channel also hosts the Animal Nerd podcast, which comes out most Tuesdays and features incredible true animal stories from around the world and throughout history. Maybe I'm a little biased since I'm the one who makes it, but I think you'd really enjoy it. Thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!